Never was fond of Warren, always seemed a bit too technologically incompetent to be on the project, let alone supervising it. He's always coming up to me and asking which terminal commands do what. Caught him attempting to use Control-C, Control-V to copy some lines once. Blew his mind when I told him he could hit the tab key to autocomplete file names. Overall, doesn't look good for us. Our foray into the alphabet mystery took another turn today. Caught a candidate experiencing the alphabet glitch again, but this time in writing. Turns out it isn't to do with the alphabet at all. Now we have even more questions. Just what the hell is a B, anyway? If you thought that was one big old setup into what if SCP Cafe was bees, I like the way you think. You're wrong this time, but under other circumstances, very much believable. Now, welcome to the fucking Thunderdome that is SCP Cafe Recap Week 33. I'm your host, Blue Soul, SCP Wiki moderator, chat administrator, subreddit moderator, author, loving husband, dog petter, Cologne aficionado, Tottenham Hotspur supporter, and level 3 dwarf paladin. Man, oh man. Remember how last week, week 32, we had 19 SCPs up for attention, up for reviews, and we fixed all of the problems in the universe by instituting rolling 30. The trouble with that is that, again, now we had a bunch where people were like, oh, well, shit, I wasn't quite ready for the first or second, but now we've got no good reason to sit on these skips, so let's go ahead and post them. I think everybody had the exact same thought, and that's exactly what happened. So we had another just avalanche of articles, really good ones. This is one of the toughest selection weeks I've had in quite a long time. Now, that makes me super excited for the state of the show. I think anytime we've got a really competitive week, that only means that the quality of the show is going to go up. Well, I mean, that's on me at least a little bit, but it's largely on you guys, you writers. So before we get into it, I want to thank my new patron this week, Tanhoney, who's also been patron to all of you with, I believe, 11 new articles in the last 14 days. That is a clip at which I have never seen an author post. Not even one that we banned for being too spammy with their posts. Not even Roger at his most WriterBot-esque. I've never seen a rate like this. And never mind that they're all really good. As a matter of fact, 2 of them were selected for this show. They are the 2 final skips we'll be talking about on the recap today. CollabCon Recap Part 2 was released on Wednesday to patrons, and will go to general release next Wednesday, the 21st. Altogether, Part 1 and Part 2 of this collaboration contest recap, as a whole, it is the longest recap I've ever done. So we talked about every single entry in the collaboration contest, and Part 2 covers the first, second, and third place winners and each of their articles. We spent quite a bit of time talking about each one. Part 2 is 99 minutes long, whereas Part 1, where we talked about, I want to say 34 skips, was only about 45 minutes. So the Part 2 full recap length coverage of each of those articles. This coming week on the SCP Cafe store, I will be adding additional designs by Sunny Clockwork for the purposes of decals. If you want vinyl decals, I've got a few different colors, and they will be... I'll be adding to the mini designs that are already available. For those that are not aware, Sunny Clockwork and any artist that has a design that I use in the SCP Cafe store receives 15% of all gross profits from their sales, and an additional 5% of profits goes to the fund for Project Foundation, our eventual migration away from Wikidot and onto our own platform. That is something that I kick in out of, what would be my cut. That goes to the artists, goes to the wiki. So take a look if you haven't on the SCP Cafe store. Always interested to see what people think about it and what sort of things they would like to see on the store. I have pretty much everything you see there. Well, all of it, everything you see there is created in-house, quite literally in my house, in my office, the same studio where I am recording this very message. So I'm under a bit of a space constraint, but that's okay. We're making it work. Now, that's about all I had for non-recap stuff. Like I said, we had 19 skips surviving and 18 of them in scope. This was not a week to submit a merely average piece. It was tough sledding. So all of these writers are quite experienced, quite good. We do have a debut, if you will, first time that one of these authors has been covered on Cafe. We're going to go ahead and get into it. SCP-4484, titled StreamSavers by Roger and Caro. We have an object class of Euclid and an image of a dog's nose from above. It looks like, this is probably intended to be like from the perspective of the dog. This dog is in fact Roger's dog Slugger, who I have seen, I believe, on more than one occasion in a staff video chat. And the procedures in here indicate that junior researchers with an interest in streaming media may be assigned to the skip at the discretion of their supervisors. This assignment isn't mandatory unless requested by the attending research coordinator. Personnel assigned to the skip are to watch its broadcast, noting any landmarks or other factors that may indicate where the broadcast is originating from. The chat room associated with this skip is to be analyzed via an algorithm that collects the participants' data, and a manual for utilizing the stream is available to all personnel. Any individual users located through this process are to be detained and debriefed. No amnestics are necessary if the ASPCA investigation cover story has proven sufficient. So we are posing as the ASPCA to try and get some information about the skip to people that are involved with it. Since initiating the procedures, the stream has become invite only. But this has not diminished the activity level of the chat or the skip's anomalous properties in any notable way. And personnel noted to have tendencies toward animal cruelty are not to be assigned to the skip per Ethics Committee guidelines. So we're setting up something to do with being kind to animals and perhaps a group of people that share that interest. The skip itself is described as a streaming website accessible via varying web addresses, which allows users in a chat room to directly control the behavior and activities of individual dogs. -1 is the designation for whichever dog is being controlled at a given time. The phenomenon has been documented as affecting canines in North America, Europe, East Africa, and parts of Oceania. It has a simplistic web interface. We have a brief description embedded here. Collectively controlled canines, lots of sweethearts here. Channel rules. Users will not harm any canines through the stream or allow them to come to harm. Dogs will obey their commands as long as they do not contradict the first rule. The stream will protect and maintain its existence as long as this does not violate rules 1 or 2. These sound like familiar 3 laws. We continue. The feed is viewed through the perspective of a different dog every 8 hours. We don't understand or know how they're selected. We have color correction and other editing has been applied to the stream to make it appear as though the viewer is looking through a live streaming headset camera with a limited palette of 32,768 colors. That sounds like a lot until you force your display to such a mode and you can see a pretty big difference. So I think the idea here is to make it look more like a dog's what they actually see as far as colors and so on. The commands are apparently done in something of a Twitch democracy style. The chat room averages 600 lines per minute of text. There's text, emojis, and some custom icons that are available to be entered as messages. And whenever control over a new instance of -1 is established, the preceding one's appearance is saved as an icon. So we have a little list here of frequently used icons and their meaning within this community. There's an icon of a golden retriever posted generally as a reaction to something happy, or if Dash 1 is getting attention. There's a basset hound if Dash 1's being scolded or reprimanded. There's a corgi if the current Dash 1 is located within the UK and other dominions of the House of Windsor. This will be posted constantly until a new canine is selected. And the Moody, which is kind of a large-ish black herding dog, this icon is spammed whenever an apparent mistake is made by moderation. We have a footnote here that says, apparently in one incident, Dash 1 was briefly a feline. This will be posted en masse until the error is corrected. So very Twitch-like in the descriptions here. And users can additionally purchase special privileges through direct contact by the moderators. We've had no luck in doing this ourselves. Paying users have their commands followed without the need for a collective agreement, and their messages appear in colored text. If you email these guys to try and get this, figure out how to do this, the responses are from one-time use burner email accounts. And we have an attachment here with no real metadata attached to it. It says benefits for paid subscriptions. Paid subscribers can make the dog act as they please, although they will still be kicked if they violate the rules. Applied to the next dog if the current pup is not able to perform. For $5, he will aggressively lick his own ass. For $20, knock something over with tail/snout. For $50, make the dog bark loud, and loud is in bold. $45, search the cushions for buried treasure. $80, dance party of one. $150, start peeing anywhere as long as rules are not violated. $200+, flips. And all proceeds benefit helpful pup charities. And approximately once a week, the canine in question, our Dash 1 instance, will be in an unsafe environment. And if that happens, the words "save him" in all caps are superimposed on the screen for a few seconds after the perspective change. The first such instance was a Pomeranian, which appeared to have been chained to a basement wall, and over the next 4 hours, the users of this channel collaborated to facilitate its escape. They located the home it was being held in, coordinated with local users to rescue the animal. They rubbing the chain on exposed plumbing, climbing over hoarded garbage to a window, and opening it via utilizing a broken yardstick as a lever. Dash 1 was able to leave the basement. It was subsequently rescued by an anonymous user who adopted the dog and renamed it Maverick. End article. This thing is short and sweet. I love just the concept of Twitch for dogs. You know, Twitch plays dog. It's wonderful. We don't get too much into GOIs or any of the really deep narrative that drives a lot of modern writing. And I like that about this. You know, we don't, this is a really enjoyable piece without bringing in any of the deep background. We're simply, you know, describing this really bizarre sort of place on the internet that apparently, you know, this is happening. And it's invite only, so that's why you can't get in. I love the skip. You know, it's delightful, and it was a very easy +1 from me. Moving on now. SCP-4386, titled Be Gone B. Both of those are simply the letter B. This is by Cyrus Firedon, making their debut on SCP Cafe. We have an object class of Euclid, level 4 classified, and a fairly lengthy set of procedures here. We also have an image that is appears to be of a very colorful something or other. From the pictures in the dark, I can't quite tell in this whether we're seeing it inside or outside, but it is, there's blues and yellows and greens and reds and purples, all within what looks maybe like a set of server racks or a very colorful data center at night. Now, this was also the longest article of the week, so I'm going to try and touch on the high points here. We have procedures that indicate the area above the enclosure of the skip. So, skip, enclosure around it, area above it. Monitored at all times across a radius of 5 kilometers. This includes the nearby town of Black Box, where undercover Foundation operatives are tasked with identifying civilians that pique our suspicions. The civilians will be amnesticized After interrogation, the single entrance to the skip is located at the western extreme of Black Box Town, surrounded by chain link fence, guarded by 4 security personnel at all times. The main power supply for the skip should be checked for signs of degradation every 2 hours, which, if this is a data center, which it kind of appears to be, that is quite frequent. Meanwhile, at least 2 backup power generators will be on standby at all times. Flux in the power grid is to be logged daily and cross-referenced with -1. This is actually presented as -01, but going through the rest of the article, that appears to be just personal preference. So -01 and its recorded input readings are cross-referenced with fluctuations in the local power grid. -2 through 5 are under constant observation. Any dissociative orders or suicidal tendencies recognized in them are to be reported immediately, and psychological countermeasures should be employed to ensure they're not able to cause any self-harm. The simulation hosted on -1 is to be policed by the assigned PSI-TF. This is uppercase C, lowercase y, uppercase T, uppercase F. I believe this is Cyber Task Force. In all instances of VSCP-01. This is a bit of a format screw that I'm not super in love with. It doesn't really hurt anything, but it's so specific to this article that I feel like we could have just used an alternate designation rather than saying this is the first of its kind in a whole other classification system. All instances of this VSCP are to be removed from the simulation on site, excluding instances directly in the vicinity of -2 through -5. So -2 through -5 are within some sort of simulation hosted on -1, and there is some VSCP-01 that is to be removed unless it's directly around our people within the simulation. Got it. So -1 is described more fully as itself a collective designation for 55 interlinked computer and medical systems. This includes a single cylindrical relay station dominating the center of the cavern that is the overall designation of SCP-4386. It is a large man-made cavern 500 meters beneath an abandoned farm on the edge of a rural town known as Black Box, United Kingdom. We could probably be a little more specific, given that the United Kingdom is made up of, several smaller components there, and there's probably more than one black box of that sort within it. So we have our single relay station that dominates the center of the cavern, 15.3 meters in height, 7.1 meters in diameter, 46 data processing units. These look to be like dumb terminals that allow interaction with the entire shebang, and 8 substations that appear to be standard operating tables surrounding this relay station. Each one is connected by numerous cables to the relay station. There's additionally tubes and intravenous devices set in place to supply nutrition and nourishment to any humans residing on these tables. As of a date here, which is also black boxed, -2 through -5 occupy 4 of the substations, and the remaining 4 are not occupied. 2 through 5 are 2 males and 2 females. -6 is a bulbous metallic mass residing on top of the relay station of -1. It is 8 meters in diameter and 4 meters in height. Printed on its side is the phrase "Big Bad," and that's B.A.D. as though it is an acronym. We apparently have a retrieved document further down in this article to reference that, and the internal mechanism of it is still unknown. So we describe a lot in this description. There's a lot to keep track of. Thankfully, the article doesn't, it's not too bad to follow in the context of the article itself. So -2 through -5 are currently unconscious. Their consciousness manifests within an accurate simulation of modern Earth hosted by -1. This has shown to follow the exact same event cycles present in the physical world with an average delay of 23 hours. These 4 people are unaware their observed world is a simulation. There are only 2 big differences between reality and the sim. One is the complete lack of anomalous entities, including the presence of the Foundation and other known GOIs, and 2, the presence of virtual species VSCP-01 known in simulation as the Bee. And we have a footnote here that says it is not considered an anomalous entity in simulation. So the Bee, in quotes, BEE. I know what a Bee is. Our investigation into -1's data store has shown us that the goal of this thing and the intended mechanism by which it delivers it poses a substantial threat to humanity and standard reality. What we know is that should our 4 humans be awoken simultaneously, -6 will activate, leading to a complete CK-class reality restructuring scenario at best, and at worst, a ZK-class reality failure event. We have high stakes. But so long as one of these 4 is connected and present within the simulation, -6 will remain inactive, and so far no means to deactivate -6 safely have been discovered. So we have acceptably high stakes to justify the lengthy description and procedures here, because, well, it is our reality on the line for the proper containment of this skip. We have a couple of addenda. This thing is dominated largely by collapsibles. They take up the bulk of the actual length of the piece. We note that in 2003, we successfully gained root access to -1's OS and established administrator privileges, and we have since then given out accounts to various researchers holding adequate clearance levels, but terminal access is restricted to level 3 and above personnel only. And we have found some documents, and these are collapsibles that say that this first one is bigbadintro.txt, an introduction by BEI Administrator Ronald Hobbs. The BEI within this document apparently stands for the Better Earth Initiative. The Dr. Have we actually established they are a doctor? Probably not. This guy's probably like... what's his name? Fantastic from New Vegas. We are receiving this document as variable first name because of our profound expertise in the field of theoretical physics, and also due to our loyalty to the Better Earth Initiative and its goals. So we describe in here the big BAD project under penalty of death as it's not bad at all. It's a convenient acronym used to refer to its full title, the Big Brain, and this is BRANE, assimilation device. So this is an astounding device invented by the late Professor Samuel Briggs, Monad, rest his soul. The Big BAD is capable of artificially inducing brain collisions and intersections on a supercosmic scale. And after a series of breakthroughs, Professor Briggs has found a way to interact with the very fabric that our existence rests on. M-theorists, eat your hearts out. So this is getting into some theoretical understandings of our universe and how reality itself kind of works. There is a theory about these brains, that they are, sort of equally valid alternate universes that apparently this device can collide one of those universes with ours and perhaps replace ours with this particular brain. So we have a further explanation of what the thing is and does, and what the candidates are all about. So the next document explains that we have 8 candidates who aspire for a better world, just like us. They were chosen due to their matching views of the Better Earth Initiative in creating a peaceful world where no one need fear another being again. They have all of these, really optimistic hopes and dreams. They are stuck in this simulation to attempt to create an ideal reality for the rest of humanity, at which point the big BAD will trigger this brain collision and replace our dark world with a flawless haven. Now, the problem with this is that messing with these macrocosmic brains is a very risky task. We are involving ourselves in things that could surpass whatever deity you may or may not believe in. to ensure we don't accidentally destroy the planet or turn all of reality into a giant carton of milk. The following guide will walk you through all the safety procedures required when working on the big BAD project. Rule number 1 through 1 million, do not wake up the candidates. They'll wake up naturally when the simulation's complete. In the event that all 8 of the candidates are awake, the Big BAD is designed to interpret this as a final and lasting representation of an ideal reality and will activate with the variables currently held at the time the last candidate awakens. This means that should all of them wake up prematurely by any means, the Big BAD will form a brain collision with the incorrect setting, and what it creates will most likely be an unstable mass of primordial goo, where time and space are less than a memory. So whatever you do, don't wake the fucking candidates up. Capiche? We have simulation safety rules, and we start to understand that this is their methods here are a little questionable. We find that the candidates are not allowed to be too happy, because if they get too happy, they get complacent, and if they get complacent, they are working counter to the goals of the Better Earth Initiative. So we have some, they never get too high and they never get too low. The mood dampener module provides a constant downward pull on the candidate's mood, so we can be sure that they'll never get too happy. And we basically leave our text files here. We go into a discovery log. We found this initially via huge drains on the local power grid, and on exploration found 32 corpses, 29 of which were identified as employees of the Better Earth Initiative. Most of them died through either blood loss, blunt trauma, or starvation. 30 of them were measured as having died somewhere in the first quarter of 2001. The remaining 2 somewhere between mid-2001 and early 2003. Upon discovery, we found 5 people, -2 through -5, and 1 additional that was apparently affected by a dissociation event that we're going to reference later. These were connected to -1 via 5 of the 8 substations. 3 other bodies amongst the corpses were believed to have previously been connected as well, but they became disconnected following events that led to the demise of the cavern's total population. All 3 of them had died due to severe brain hemorrhages. We go from here to a set of employee logs, and this was something that we found after gaining admin access. We overwrote some user profile security, giving us access to logs of these former BEI personnel that, well, they're dead. They don't need these files anymore anyway. So these are logs that are considered relevant due to their stuff they talk about that pertains to ongoing investigation. So these logs go all the way back to March 12th, 2000. The guy is describing Candidate 2 acting strange. Hard to explain, but it's like she was a child trying to learn the alphabet, but she couldn't remember what came after B. She stopped eventually, so nothing came of it. And the rest of this said that she should try to put her mind elsewhere, so I made her boyfriend break up with her. Not that I have any issue with that. He wasn't good enough for her anyway. And this guy is basically sort of taken this Candidate 2 as like a pet sort of thing, and they're slipping them rewards and deleting their traces from the logs. So this dude is, potentially really threatening the ultimate goals here. The next log is from December of 2000, saying that there's more weird stuff in the simulation, but these glitches are happening more often. A couple of the candidates have started noticing they know something's wrong. The alphabet recital behavior that we found before, we're now referring to it as the alphabet glitch. We can't see what's going on in the logs. There's nothing obvious, but we noticed something else, something big. A file from our own systems appeared on one of their computers, as in something on our real computers got onto one of their virtual computers. We don't know how it got there. It might have been a copy-paste mistake, but there's no record of it. We saw the candidate reading it. We forced their system to crash before they could read it all. And they got really excited about their involvement in a conspiracy. We had to distract them from it, so we killed their grandmother. Jeez. 8 days pass, another entry here. Thinking we've been compromised. Somebody or something is slipping anomalies into the simulation, probably trying to cause a dissociation event. They must be insane. They could destroy everything. Warren has been trying to crack down on it, keeps taking people off for questioning. He's become very paranoid, trusts no one, and we got to fix this before he locks all of us up. So 2 days later, Warren had caught the culprit. It was Thompson. The poor bastard got too attached to Candidate 2, as we found in our first entry there. This is why they tell us not to get attached to him. We're dealing with the stability of reality here. There's no room for infatuation to throw us off balance. Imagine destroying the universe just because you fell in love. Tragic. Probably poetic somehow. I don't know. I don't like poetry much. Anyway, they took him away. Monad knows what they'll do with him. Leaking info alone has a fatal punishment. I can't imagine what they'll do to someone for nearly destroying reality. Oof. So we keep going through this little diary here. 5 more days pass. Thompson's gone. He left one hell of a hole in our system. It turns out he retuned the mood dampener module because he didn't like it bringing down Candidate 2's mood all the time. This ended up causing havoc for a while. You can't just give a person the good without the bad. It resets that good as the baseline for their emotions. They'll become apathetic, disillusioned by their reality. Let it go on for long enough, they'll start dissociating, and it really throws a wrench in the works we have here. I don't think Thompson understood that. That's why he kept showering Candidate 2 with affection, unknowingly redefining their emotional baseline to that of unrivaled happiness, and so risking a dissociation scenario. Maybe he did understand it, but just didn't care. Love makes people do weird shit. I don't know. Regardless, he underestimated the mood dampener module. It compensated, and it compensated hard. After we got it back to normal, and it detected, Candidate 2's excess happiness, well, even I felt bad for her after that. So a few more days pass. It's now Christmas Day 2000. The facility is on lockdown. This is an automatic precaution that only kicks in when something big happens. The writer here is trapped with their 28 colleagues. There was apparently a huge dissociation event followed by suicide. One of the candidates had woken up. Turns out there was still a bug in the system even after the MDM fix. This candidate didn't last long in the real world. 20 minutes after waking up, he expired from brain hemorrhage. His last moments must have been horrifying. One moment he's sitting on his bathroom floor obsessing over the letter B. The next, he's lying on a strange bed surrounded by incredibly confused scientists, probably coming to the haunting realization that no one he knew ever actually existed. It's peculiar to me now how after all of the intense planning that went into this project, we never considered the possibility of a candidate attempting suicide. Maybe we don't know them as well as we thought. Anyway, the candidates are now on round-the-clock suicide watch until the lockdown ends. Merry Christmas. It's rough. Our last entry here notes that they've been locked down for 17 days and counting. The candidates are stable, but we still don't know what the hell the glitch is, and the lockdown's not being lifted until it's fixed. There's some fighting going on amongst the BEI employees here, and we note that Warren was too technologically incompetent to be on the project, let alone leading it, asking what commands do what. Found him trying to use Control-C, Control-V, and we assume that we're in Linux here, or something Unix-like, where that doesn't work. You can't copy-paste things in that manner on a command line, typically. And it doesn't look good. Our alphabet mystery took another turn. We caught a candidate experiencing the alphabet glitch in writing. It isn't to do with the alphabet. All this time, they've been wondering what the hell is a B anyway. So after this log, further logs show only the gradual psychological breakdown and increase in violence between these BEI staff. They were unable to find the cause of the glitch and unexplained candidate behavior. On February 13th of 2001, no more personal logs are recorded following a complete lockout on all terminals by this supervisor Warren. The last of the BEI staff stationed here were believed to have died 3 days after this date. But despite this, the emergency log system continued to update itself, and this is all done from the perspective of sort of the syslogs or some sort of emergency logging tool. So we have warning, candidate 2 is experiencing 80% dissociation. All staff, please report to stations. And this is, there's a bunch of this stuff sort of spamming this log. Candidate 2 is approaching 100% dissociation. Please report to stations. Critical. Candidate 2 disconnecting. Candidate 6 disconnects. We are approaching a 50% unexpected disconnection threshold, and we're just getting spammed with critical logs here. The log repeats the last few lines. All staff report to stations, critical, 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 every 15 minutes from March 9th, 2001 until November 14th, 2003, because everybody in the BEI is fucking dead. These guys are stuck, in their simulation, doing their thing, not knowing what's going on. So we have an emergency event report where 06 begins experiencing this alphabet glitch and experienced a severe mental breakdown during which a window was broken. This is all within the simulation. He managed to impale his own neck with a glass shard, causing a dissociation event, and 6 was disconnected from the simulation. After 4 minutes, he suffered a violent brain hemorrhage and all vital signs ceased. Prior to the breakdown, it contacted a virtual entity he'd befriended in the simulation by phone, and we have a recording of this conversation, and it's, some AI construct of a friend, which the person here is calling Sam, and our guy is freaking out. Like, you ever feel like something's off? Like, God, there's no, it's fucking, like, there's a lot of really choppy sort of dialogue here. And finally he says, Sam, have you ever watched the bees? I have a footnote here, assumed to be bees, B-E-E-S, and not B''S, based on various writings referencing the term in the simulation. And the virtual entity says, what? It was the bees, you know what fucking bees are, right? I said, yeah, sure, what about them? I said, you ever watched them? Seen what they do? Watched them just do their shit, whatever they do. They don't make sense. They don't make any sense at all. I've just been watching them. They're not right. I don't understand. Have you actually watched them? They don't belong here. The way they move, how they sound, how they act, God damn it. I don't get it. Something's just wrong about them. I don't know how to explain. And the virtual entity said, I think you're having a breakdown or something. You should really call the doctor. I don't need a bloody doctor. Just believe me already. You're the only one who ever gets what I'm talking about. You know me. I don't make up shit like this. Just, please, Sam, I need someone to support me on this. And he's, coming down a little bit. And but there's now silence on the line. That if you're not going to talk to me, I'm calling the police or something to check on you. So finally picks the phone back up. Hey, Sam, can you promise me just one thing? He says, sure. Watch the bees, Sam. Okay, but ends the call right there. So we get into sort of the climax here, our bug report. This is June 14th, 2019. We have a bug report, and this is b.cof in wrong folder. This is bug 8156. This is now a closed bug within the Foundation's bug report system, bug tracker. So to summarize this, one of our technicians notes they were looking through entity blueprint files in the /insect folder and found a copy of b.cof, which is apparently a concept and not an entity. So the administrator checks it out, and yes, it is an exact copy of the file we have stored in concepts/language/letter. How the bloody hell did it get all the way over there? If anyone knows anything, please let me know so we can solve this quickly. For now, we are placing this this file in the pending removal pile. No one touch it until I get around to it. And somebody else chimes in and says, you may not want to delete it just yet. I've been looking into it. I have a hunch this might be related to our alphabet glitch mystery. So I decided to check out the evolutionary event log from the last decade. It turns out this b.cof concept file has been getting utilized as a part of the entity evolution simulation. And this is designed within the simulation to represent evolution of all species present within the simulation, including all sorts of evolutionary divergence and patterns predicted from interspecies interactions. So it says, check it out for yourselves. Search for B_letter_English, meaning this is the concept of the letter B in English. We note this, the sim wrote an entire history for an insect species called bee, just the letter B, going back 120 million years, including an era where humans simply started spelling the creature's name as B-E-E. It's insane how much it has written for it. There's a whole load of branching species, superstitions, everything. The people who wrote this module were damn dedicated. To be honest, these bee things seem pretty innocent. They're like slightly less intimidating wasps. So they're not really a threat to normalcy in the simulation, but the file was originally written to be the concept of the letter B and not an insect. It is probably making them act in some peculiar ways the candidates are picking up on that we hadn't noticed until now. So we probably can't just remove it. If we do that, the candidates are probably going to notice the removal of what is ultimately a 120 million year old species. There's a lot going on here unsaid. I love this piece. Our admin says, oh my god, I can't believe this went unnoticed for this long. You're right. We can't get rid of it now. It's got to stay. Do we have any idea how this happened? This glitch has been around since the BEI were running the show, so thank God this wasn't our fuck up. But we really need to find the cause so we don't end up making the same mistake ourselves. This is all, super believable, like interactions within IT and within dev and operations teams. So we're setting a task to set this thread to watch it. We're closing bug report 1 now since we have identified the cause of the alphabet glitch, and this thread will take its place in trying to find a solution. Leave that file alone for now. So create to task, our first commenter picks it up and looks into the logs and says, you're not going to believe this. You guys know who Matthew Warren was, the former supervisor that ran this place? I found this in his command history. Check it out. And it is basically, this is done from somebody that's trying to work with Unix or a Linux OS. Shit ain't working because he doesn't know any of the commands. So he's trying cpy barklice.ef/insect. It says, unrecognized command cpy. Yeah, it's not a valid thing. Tries it again. Nah, trying that. Shit ain't working. It says unrecognized command, and he's trying to change other things in it. Been around more than my fair share of people like this. So he tries the command copy instead, and that also doesn't work. We have some dots in here, I think, to represent the passage of time. There's maybe other ways you could do this part of it, but it gets the point across well enough. I didn't hate it or anything, but I know, like, my shells, I stick a timestamp in any of them so I can go see how long things took after the fact. But that's neither here nor there. But he's been inactive for 10 minutes, and he tries to copy now with the correct command, which is cp, and it says the directory insect does not exist at that location. So he tries it again, */insect. Okay, that worked. And tries it again. It says file called beetle already exists in that location. Would you like to overwrite it? No. Goes through, making it go beetle, butterfly, blowfly. It's working. It says Control-C, Control-V, Control-CC, Control-VVV. It's not working. Doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So, but he goes on, copies bed bugs, back swimmers, bluettes, bed bugs again. That one didn't throw an error. It probably should have. And then our line, cpb.cof */insect. It worked. It said undo. Unrecognized command undo. Control-Z, Control-Z. That ain't working. Delete */insect/b.cof. Unrecognized command. Tries del. del. That doesn't work either. The correct command, should you find yourself in this situation, where the future of your reality hangs in the balance, is rm */insect/b.cof. Should it come up for you in the future. He logs out. He's basically given up. So he checked. So our tech checked the action logs later. There's no record of him actually doing that. So he took a page out of Thompson's book and was deleting his action mishaps. He neglected that the commands themselves are still stored in his command history. So we're looking like through their .bash history or something along those lines. We conclude this was not the brightest BEI member. And the next comment here was really good. It said, well, you can practically hear the cogs grinding in his head as he was doing that. That's incredible. The part where he was trying to undo had me in stitches. Didn't one of the BEI guys theorize this was a copy-paste error? Never would have guessed he was onto something. So our admin says, Jesus, how many people died just because some guy hadn't memorized the basic terminal commands? I hope to God there's no one on our team that doesn't understand the basics on these systems. The thought that the universe could have been destroyed because of these little bee things kind of terrifies me. Maybe I should run another staff course just to be sure. It might help me sleep better after dwelling on this whole fiasco, at least. Well, anyway, mystery solved. I'll be closing this ticket. Also, regarding how we handle the bee problem, I've sent out an email to everyone regarding the new on-site cyber task force we've been assigned and the new tech we're installing for them. If you don't have it, please contact me. It's important you all read it. And with that, he closes the issue. So, our final addendum here is VSCP-01 and the cyber task force. They have the cyber task force has been assigned to police the simulation via a neural VR mechanism. There's a footnote in here. Neural VR. The footnote references Carmack, John D., 2018, Breakthroughs in Human Neuron Mapping and Their Applications to Modern Virtual Reality, confiscated by SCP Foundation due to anomalous content. John Carmack, of course, being the creator of id Software and a pretty damn good programmer in his own right. He has a whole thing that I'm gonna divert here briefly to talk about how he came up with these arcane numbers and ways to just get the maximum amount of performance out of the old games, out of Doom and Hexen and Quake. And there's one that was commented as black magic fuckery, to which somebody else responded, like sort of pointing at it, what the fuck? But it works. So Carmack apparently is at least a little anomalous in this piece too. Anyway, this cyber task force is tasked with manually culling the numbers of VSCP-01 over time due to technical issues arising from the former plan to outright remove them. We are ordered to eliminate all of these instances at a rate that will not arouse too much suspicion in -2 through 5. Upon the eradication of the species, files related to them will be given the right of permanent deletion. Should additional non-deletable entities manifest, we will remain on standby until assigned removal duties accordingly. We end the article there. There's so much to unpack from this thing. Like, this thing is actually really ambitious. We are... The implications here is that, one, we are actually within this simulation, and this plays on the whole, idea of the self and, fears that the people around you are just in a simulation and maybe you're the only, the real person. We also have an in-simulation explanation for the gradual vanishing of the bee population, of colony collapse disorder, and all of these real-world things that are being done because we can't, these fucking bees are messing with everything. We have our own in-universe, in SCP universe article about bees that is quite deranged. And then there's, of course, the whole opening to a bee movie about how, the bee, by all accounts, should not be able to fly. That's obviously a load of shit, but I was thinking of that as I was trying to understand why the hell these poor people would be so freaked out by bees. I love this. This was super ambitious. It pulled it all off. When we talk about build up to payoff, there's a lot of build up, and the payoff really had to rise to the occasion. It's helped in my instance because there's some really engaging IT stuff in here that is really good, really accurate, and the fact that we've got this huge simulation with super high stakes for failure, and it's all at risk of being totally fucked up because an IT guy oversold himself on his resume and doesn't know Linux. I mentioned in one of the Discords, I'm actually in a state approaching despair that I didn't think of this concept. This was super, super well done. The length didn't bother me because the skip was that good. This was a great piece and an easy +1. Moving on, SCP-4495, A God for Pigs by Uranium Empire. We have a more modern-looking header here with the object class of Keter, site responsible, director, da-da-da. We have a threat level of yellow, which I'm still not super clear on. I should probably get on the French wiki at some point and get acclimated with those, but I'm assuming that's, better than red or black, but not as good as green or tangerine, maybe? We have tangerine? I don't know. Anyway, So below this, we have a little note centered that says, following the regular implementation of procedure 610 Sinclair, 4495 has achieved sufficient ectoentropic stability and is no longer considered at risk of instigating an NK class scenario. Legacy containment procedures are kept on record in the event that 610 Sinclair is no longer viable. So the procedures discuss 610 Sinclair. It should be executed on a daily basis. Maintenance personnel are to inspect its containment chamber on a bi-weekly basis. It's contained inside of a 3-tiered cell. Each one is separated by a graded floor. The skip itself is on the top tier, strapped into an alcove in the southern wall. Its stomach is positioned at an acute angle with respect to the floor, allowing -1 to immediately fall through the grating upon generation. To prevent the buildup of stuck instances of -1, this grating is to be sprayed hourly via pressure washer. The top tier is to also remain refrigerated in the interest of reducing miasma. When we first got into this, I thought we were doing something with Dwarf Fortress. That wasn't what happened. I'm a little disappointed, but the middle tier is a combination grinder and incinerator. -1 instances are forced into the machine through a funnel. Emerging from the bottom is a temporarily inert paste. That's concerning. This process takes under 10 minutes. The bottom tier contains implements required for procedure 610 Sinclair. Should that procedure become non-viable, -1 paste is to be pressed as thinly as possible, vacuum sealed, and stored in Site 56's provisional storage wing. Relevant personnel are to read document 610 at the nearest opportunity. This is not SCP-610, but I'm going to come back to that. The skip itself is described as the partially decomposed corpse of an unidentified cryptid. It superficially resembles a bipedal pig clad in regal wear reclining upon a throne, but on closer look, the throne, the pig, all of its clothing, it all constitutes one single immobile organism made of keratin, bone, and skin. So the throne and all the clothes and stuff are still made of flesh. The pig's ventral torso has ruptured, and if you've never been around one of these opportunities to see a dead pig in the summer expand and then explode, fucking skip it. It's terrible. Periodic contractions along the pig's abdominal cavity continuously forces instances of -1 outward. Gross. Instances of -1 look vaguely like pig intestines, but these -1 are animate and behave in a manner roughly analogous to pythons, with the exception of extreme aggression in the presence of animal life. This is terrible. So, pig intestines squirting out stuff that behaves like really pissed off snakes. These -1 instances can be damaged normally. They will reform, however, if given enough time. Exposure to high temperatures delays this process, does not halt it entirely. It can only be permanently destroyed through the application of procedure 610 Sinclair. So, what we have now is a collapsible document 4495-610, analysis of -1, and details of procedure 610 Sinclair. We've had a lot of build towards this procedure. It pays off. So, analyzing -1, we made some assumptions on what the thing is, and given what it is creating things continuously, it has the risk of causing an NK class gray goo scenario if the method of destroying these -1 instances is not developed. We note that yes, -1 resembles pig intestines. However, these individual instances of -1 are variable in shape and size to the extent that, assuming it functions as a theoretical living instance of intestines, the species of the skip would have possessed an infinite number of digestive systems or a highly variable diet between individual members. We note that through a lot of chemical testing, -1 appeared to be chemically inert, but such a conclusion would necessitate the usage of anomalous disposal methods. we continued basically an ancillary protocol to continue testing to come up with anything. The Pepper protocol, we call it. During this additional testing, a junior researcher violated quarantine protocols when he vomited on his respective batch of -1, but novel chemical reactions were immediately observed. So now we go to details of procedure 610 Sinclair, and as you scroll, you have an image, and this is the most disgusting image I've seen on the wiki in quite a long time. It is highly expanded pig intestines that appear to stretch from floor to ceiling. Yeah. All right, I'm better now. The -1 paste so we're talking about the procedure here. This is 610 Sinclair explained. -1 paste is cleansed of grime through a food-safe cleaning mechanism. The paste is then reheated over a period of an hour at 400 degrees Celsius. It is separated then into a series of measured portions depending on the culinary attitudes of the foundation. Oh. They're fitted with a fake casing. Portions are to be served to Foundation personnel on standard diet plans in lieu of pork. Unsold portions are to be fed to D-Class as part of... uneaten portions are filtered out of the site's disposal system, thoroughly cleansed, and the procedure repeats. Oh no, I hate this. Extensive experimentation shows that -1 is culinarily similar to common pork, with superior nutritional benefits and lower levels of cholesterol and saturated fats. This is in addition to its longevity. -1, treated with procedure 610 Sinclair, does not decay. It will remain inanimate for approximately 2 weeks. Fuck me. Without additional heat treatment. Most importantly, in addition to providing a better ratio of caloric content, consumption of -1 produces virtually no waste matter, as a significant portion of -1 is essentially annihilated upon digestion. I meant to ask Uranium Empire about this before I started the show. Does this mean that if you eat this -1, you don't poop? I think that's what this means. I don't know how else to take that. Anyway, back onto this unfortunate thing that we're dealing with. Mass implementation of 610 Sinclair is projected to save a whole bundle of money on culinary expenses. Disinformation efforts are underway in the form of increased sanitary regulations and article. And thank God for that. This is, if there was ever a thanks I hate it skip, this is a thanks I hate it skip. Super well put together. I am thoroughly fucking grossed out by this thing. But that's the name of the game. We don't get a ton of these that come through that really just go after you with like squeaky gross stuff. Now, anyway, I said I was going to talk about 610. I feel like this had to have been quite deliberate nod to SCP-610. The flesh that hates, the image on 610, which, it's iconic, but if you haven't seen it, go, set aside an hour or so to get through the skip and all of the logs. They really are phenomenally put together. It just recently passed plus 1100. So I'm assuming there's a connection here, particularly with the vomiting on it. And man, all right. +1. I'm going to go wash my hands. I'm going to come back. Okay, I'm back. I got some Purell. I got some soap. I'm doing better now. SCP-4263 Gemini by Tanhoney. One of the 11 that got posted in the last 2 weeks by Tanhoney. I have one more to talk about after this one, too. We have an object class of Euclid and no images immediately visible, though we do have some a little further down the page here. Fairly short procedures here. The skip is housed in a humanoid containment chamber located at Site 36. This containment chamber is equipped with an SRA, kept under guard by at least 2 security personnel at all times. Due to the ongoing investigation of Dash B, the skip is to be made available for interview by employees of the Foundation's Ethics Committee at any time it is required. That's all of it. The skip is described as a gestalt entity created through the bodily and mental fusion of 22-year-old reality bender Anna Kaufman, the previous 4263, and 52-year-old site director Lucia Stanton. These components are hereafter referred to as Dash A and Dash B. The physical form of the skip is variable, limb configurations and features shifting into various forms, simultaneously resembling both components' original bodies. The personality is likewise highly variable. There's a lot of shifts back and forth, but it can also be triggered by bright lights, loud noises, and strong emotions on the part of one of the two components. The skip also retains its reality bending properties that Dash A had prior to this fusion, namely the ability to transfigure the materials of objects that enter within 5 meters of it. After this fusion, it mainly uses this ability in an attempt to kill personnel who approach it by turning them into statues of various materials. But the other side of this, Dash B, it's basically working as a self-containing system because any changes to reality that one makes is reverted by the other seconds later, presumably out of spite. This skip was formed as a result of Dash B attempting to forcefully merge with Dash A in order to gain the necessary combat ability to escape justice during Operation Black Dove. So a little bit of Foundation infighting from the sounds of it, and it is presumed that the current unstable nature of the skip is a result of this process being interrupted. It's a lot to take in. It's a very vivid picture being painted right off the bat from this description. We go into an interview log. This is apparently the first attempt at an interview, and it doesn't go fucking well at all. Dash B is irate. Do you know who the hell you're talking to? I could have your job for this. I'm going to have your fucking life for this. What's your employee number? Dash A, meanwhile, is very confused. Where am I? What's happening? I don't feel so good. And Dash B is just irate and basically being a total dick. We don't have a second attempt at this, and that's just as well because we start getting into the narrative of what happened. This is Addendum 1 Ethics Committee Action Report, and this is a note from the Vice Chairwoman indicating that she never enjoys having to write these reports because doing so means that the committee failed to keep the Foundation from adhering to its principles on some level. And had we succeeded, things wouldn't have been so bad. And this report will detail the series of events that led to the committee investigating Site Director Lucia Stanton, along with the attack on Site 36, now referred to as Operation Black Dove. There's a picture here of Lucia Stanton, white male, middle-aged, in a suit and tie. They're described as they began their work with the Foundation having been recruited straight out of the U.S. military and had some very high-profile events that they were significantly beneficial to the Foundation in. They received the Foundation Star during the Game Day incident, which is not elaborated on. The star has been revoked now, of course. This put them on a, catapulted their career trajectory, and they wanted to be put in charge of a site of their own, and they really had no reason not to grant that wish. They were a proven asset with the skills and experience required, not to mention a reputation that would demand respect from the subordinates. So when the directorship of Site 36 became available, he was the obvious choice. Anna Kaufman, for her part, had also been with Foundation for the majority of her life, but this was less voluntary for her, as she was found to be a reality bender at the age of 8 after turning the family car she was in into water because she needed the bathroom. Reality benders are usually a pain in the ass to keep contained, but she was an exception to the rule. She really was the definition of a model prisoner. Never a containment breach, never even an attempt at one, and because of how docile she was passed around from site to site whenever space was required. Looking back, we were obviously far too lax with her behavior, and it's a miracle that she never escaped, to be quite honest. She was eventually transferred to Site 36 after Danton was already there, and that's when the incident began. We were getting reports back that we would expect. Kaufman was docile, well-behaved, one of the easiest humanoid anomalies they'd ever worked with. Then they start talking about the containment breach. On December 14th, 2015, the SRA covering her cell fails. She begins an escape attempt that ends with the deaths of 3 security personnel. Surprising. The site does contain her before she runs for it, using a backup anchor to lock down her reality-bending ability. We reviewed these events and decided that her current procedures were not sufficient. The Ethics Committee recommended a regimen of drugs and cognito agents to assure she does not make another attempt like this, and these procedures were implemented. We now believe that Danton either partially or fully instigated this supposed containment breach. We have a log here that is apparently like a telephone transcript. It says, "Hello, you've reached the Ethics Committee Anonymous Helpline. Is there something you'd like to report today?" It says, yes. Okay. This is anonymous, right? It says, yes, it's the Anonymous Helpline. Fully anonymous? Yes, fully. What is it you'd like to talk about today? Well, it's about Site 36. I don't know the specifics. There's something really bad going on here. The very next thing it says, "The previous log was a call from junior researcher Alan Raleigh, who had recently been assigned to Site 36. Yes, I know we said it was anonymous. Yes, that was a lie. We find it helps people find the will to report things." This is very much in the wheelhouse of the Ethics Committee. I like that inclusion, just for character. It doesn't add much to the story, but it does flesh out the EC just a little bit more. And in this instance, it didn't really matter, as Mr. Raleigh was killed in a breach at Site 36 2 days later. So we immediately, as the EC, stepped up investigation and started to figure out that Danton is a total shitbag. It's easier to say what he didn't do that was illegal than what he did. The high points here are extortion, exploiting anomalies for personal gain, making inappropriate demands of his subordinates. He had additionally bribed the Ethics Committee representative at Site 36 not to report any of these ethical violations. That employee has been dealt with now. I will not go into further detail, but only say that we take our integrity very seriously indeed. The most outrageous abuse of power was the exploitation of Miss Kaufman. Using the regimen, and this actually says regiment, that should be corrected to regimen, of drugs and cognito agents she'd been prescribed as a result of the fake breach he'd engineered. He's now manipulating her into using her reality-bending abilities for profit, turning paper into gold, garbage into diamonds. The kind of anomaly we'd spent years containing for the sake of humanity now turned to making a private profit. I'm going to take a brief pause here to point out this is something I really wanted to explore about a year ago. I was talking with Quick and Groovin about this exact sort of thing of, a real shitbag employee could create a culture like this in the Foundation. I'm really pleased to see it done this well, because we're seeing the Ethics Committee, Foundation ethics stuff really does intrigue me, and this was really well executed. Anyway, Danton figures out that we're on to him. He began negotiating with a Foundation-embedded agent of the Chaos Insurgency. Ooh. And at that point, we decided enough's enough. We have a vote proposal by Chairman Odongo Tijani. This is a little Easter egg that I may talk about in a bit. Proposing to arrest Site Director Lucius Danton and his collaborators via deployment of armed forces. There are 36 for this, 12 against with 3 abstentions. That is a concerning number, given it sounds like we have a preponderance of evidence about this guy. And 12 people against the arrest, you might make the assumption that Danton had managed to pay off some of these people as well, or have some other dirt against them. In any event, the motion passes, and on April 13th, 2019, following a vote initiated by the chairman, Mobile Task Force Omega-1 Law's Left Hand deployed to Site 36 to deal with this guy. Law's Left Hand is a link to Tanhony's proposal, a 001 proposal. It is one of my very favorite 001 proposals out there, and you do owe it to yourself to give it a read. We note that most of the security at Site 36 was loyal to Danton rather than the Foundation, but Law's Left Hand is quite efficient and wrecks shop, more or less. Omega-1 found him partway through his attempt to manipulate Kaufman into merging them into a single being. He presumably intended to be in full control of that reality-bending ability and to use this to, defend himself, survive, and get the hell out of Dodge, and escape and probably defect to the CI. We, couldn't really say whether it would have worked, but the flashbang went off, and, we kind of know the rest. Because of the greed and vice of one man, as well as our own inattentiveness, the life of an innocent young woman was ruined even more than it already was. I do not expect we will ever be able to separate Danton and Kaufman. More than likely, they will serve as a cautionary tale for the rest of their natural lives, and who really knows how long that will be. Lucius Danton was a cancer, but hardly a unique one. There are doubtless many more men and women just like him in the Foundation, waiting to spread throughout our organization and poison all that they touch. It is our duty, as always, to pluck them from the meat and cast them away. I ask that you never forget that. The Foundation keeps the world on the right path. We keep the Foundation on the right path. Secure, contain, protect. End article. It's a fantastic piece. Tanhony's been doing a lot of these where we have fairly simple premises explored and given good depth and support to get the point across effectively and not really belabor it once we achieve that. I really dig this piece. This is the sort of thing that I'm always surprised when we have a really compelling concept that hasn't been done before. And I've mentioned a couple of times, there is a lot of meat on the bones when you talk about tales involving Foundation ethics. This was a very, very well executed example of that, and this was is it obvious I really liked this, because I really did. This was outstanding. Very easy +1. Now, last but not least, SCP-4506, Eternal Child Star, also by Tanhony. We have an object class of Euclid struck through and neutralized in its place. We have an image on the right of a small boy. I would say he is 8 to 10 years old. I'm honestly not great with how old kids are by looking at him. And he's holding a brown rabbit. He's got a North Face little parka on and blue jeans. The fact that the caption reads that this is SCP-4506, and we have an object class of neutralized, is a bit grim to start off. We have about a paragraph's worth of procedures. A learning computer Beta 9 Alexander is tasked with scanning visual media for individuals matching 4506's features. In cases where the skip is confirmed to be present, it is to be doctored out of the footage if possible. In cases where the presence is significant, so minor edits will not do, Covert Task Force Zeta 9, the producers, are to be embedded into the production in question in order to facilitate more pervasive alterations. However, following Incident 1, these containment procedures have been deemed unnecessary. It's not sounding great. So the skip is described as 10-year-old child actor Thomas Sender, declared missing October 12th, 1995. Over the years since its initial disappearance, the skip has continued to appear in various visual media productions, films and TV programs in both major and minor roles. All media that this child actor has appeared in has been financed or otherwise influenced by GOI 1783 Westhead Media. Notably, the skip has not visibly aged over the course of this period. A little concerning. We have an appearance log cited that does actually exist a little further down in the piece. When individuals involved with these productions are questioned regarding the appearance of the skip, they will find its presence unremarkable, only realizing they have no memory of him actually appearing during the filming when specifically prompted. It originally disappeared following a day of filming on the family sitcom Where the Heart Is, in which it portrayed the character of Jacob Hart. We have a footnote here indicating that this was the skip's most prominent role to date, with predictions that it would launch a more substantial TV career. The witnesses on that day describe a suited man who identified himself as the skip's talent agent, beckoned it into a nearby car, and drove away shortly after. So, since then, we go into this appearance log, and we have 20 years worth of appearances in here, and these are only sort of an excerpted set of the appearances. A full list is apparently available from the site 22 Media Archives, and we start with Friends in 1980. How about that? 1996, I should say. The child actor appears as an extra at the conclusion of the episode in Central Park. He is visibly confused, looking around and stumbling seemingly at random. 5 years later, an episode of Star Trek Enterprise, he appears in a significant role. He plays a child who encounters a confused Klingon at the beginning of the episode, later reporting it to authorities. Due to the substantial nature of this appearance, substantial edits to the episode were required before it could be released. And I wonder about this one because I have not seen much Star Trek, and I wonder if this is made to kind of explain how a particular episode doesn't make a lot of sense. In the 2007 Transformers movie, the child actor appears as an extra during the film's climactic battle sequence, and there are a lot of reaction shots during the sequence showing the actor displaying extreme fear at its surroundings. 2010, in an episode of Doctor Who, he appears as a child whom the character of the Doctor questions about recent killings, and throughout the conversation, he misreads the majority of his lines. And in 2016, Game of Thrones, he appears during the declaration of Jon Snow as King in the North. Spoiler alert, I guess? I don't know. It's 3 years old. Statute of limitations probably run out. Portraying a character referred to as the young Lord Crowson. The skip has bruising visible on its face and walks with a noticeable limp. So we go from here to an interview log from April 11th, 2017. We find that the parents of this entity have been making numerous attempts to contact members of the anomalous community. Upon investigating, we find this is a result of them noting their child in various TV and movies, wanting to discover more about the anomalous in relation to their son's disappearance as a result. So we go to an interview log with the Dr. Jade and Mr. and Mrs. Sender, and Mr. Sender is irate. He immediately asks, "Where is my son?" Jade says, "I don't know that." And Sender says, "Liar, you're a fucking liar. You do know. I can see it in your fucking face. Fuck you." There's a pause. Jade says, "If you can't calm down at least a little, I'll be forced to leave and wait for you to cool down. Is that what you want?" "Fine. Okay, I'll calm down, but you do know. You do." Jade says, "Why do you think I would know where your son is?" Sender says, "This is what you people are like. My wife told me all about that." Yeah. We have a footnote here indicating that his wife worked with, not in the UIU for a period of time, as she was a retired FBI agent. And Sender continues, says, "You at least have an idea." There's a pause, and Jade says, "Your son has been missing for 22 years, Mr. Sender. I'm 32 years old. Do you really think I was involved in your son's kidnapping when I was 10? Sender says, "I never said that. I just said you know. I saw him." "You saw him?" "On TV. I did. I swear, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. In a crowd on Law and Order." Jade says, "I see. You're sure this was your son?" Sender says, "I know my son when I see him. His eyes were all red, like he'd been crying. He was holding his arm all funny, but it was him. He hadn't aged a day. Please, just tell me where he is. If you do know, I need to say I'm sorry for pushing him so much. I thought it would build good work ethic, but he hated me for it. I thought he'd ran away at first, because of that. Then I thought he was dead in a ditch somewhere or worse. But he didn't. He's not. I saw him. Please, just tell me what you know. I'm begging you." There's another pause, and Jade says, I don't know. I really am sorry. Sender slumps in his chair and drops his arms. No, you really don't, do you? Fuck. We end the interview there. Mrs. Sender would not respond to any attempts at questioning, so we did not bother conducting an interview with her at that point. So after this, both the Mr. and Mrs. were amnestized with Class A amnestics and released, but they witnessed him again in a subsequent minor containment breach, and they had again attempted to contact the anomalous community. And this happened 2 more times after this, and we determined instead to not waste the resources and instead place them under observation. So we have an incident log, and this is sort of the climax of the piece here. April 22nd, 2017, observers reported from the Foundation that Mr. and Mrs. Sender had disappeared from their home overnight. They had driven away from their home during a brief interval when the observers were swapping shifts, and it's believed they intentionally waited for this interval before leaving. 2 days later, their car was found outside an abandoned TV studio on the outskirts of Durham, New Mexico. Hey, that's not me, but it is New Mexico. Interesting seeing the old home state referenced here. Durham does not actually exist. It is a fictitious town. Their car was found abandoned. We didn't find any sign of struggle, but a recording had been left behind in the vehicle, and this is an audio recording. It's between Mr. and Mrs. Sender. They are Sender saying, I'm going to put it to record so there's a message in case we, and Mrs. Sender says, yeah. Is it loaded? Yeah, it's loaded. Okay, that's good. Well, it's not good, but sorry. I get what you mean. What? And then what do we say? For the message, I guess we should explain the situation. So one of our contacts, what the fuck am I talking about? One of the guys we got in touch with got back to me. Said he'd heard of these Westhead guys, knew where they operated. Said he'd pass the information on to us for a lot of money. And Mrs. Sender says, I thought it was a scam. Mr. Sender says, I half thought so too. It still might be. I don't know whether that would be good or bad though. But we had to know, if there's a chance we had to try. It's fine. So we got a gun, we've got ammo. We don't know how much good that'll do, but we have it. We're going to get Tommy out of there, or we're going to make sure they can't hurt him anymore. You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Just love you. Love you too. Following the discovery of this recording and the disappearances of Simon and Eileen Sender, no further appearances of SCP-4506 have been recorded. As a result, SCP-4506 has been reclassified as neutralized. End article. That's so fucking grim. Like, this is... Man. This is an all-timer. This is one of the darkest pieces I've ever seen on the wiki. And you're set up for it from the very beginning. Like, it starts off, with some ominous foreboding, and it delivers on it. We don't know what happened, but we know we don't even see the kid anymore. And sometimes the things you don't say provide far more impact than the things you do. This is the same sort of logic behind redactions and expungements in documents, that sometimes the things you leave to the reader to imagine are far worse than anything you would have come up with on your own. And in this case, the intentional leaving things unsaid, but we have to assume this thing's neutralized one way or another. We don't know what happened. We don't know who's alive, who's not. But for our part, we can't get a hold of anybody anymore, and we don't see the kid anymore. Super, super dark. This is, for my money, one of the best pieces of the year. It is extremely underrated, currently at plus 37, and with my upvote, plus 38. Now, this is probably at least a little bit due to the extremely high volume of articles this week. Things are getting buried left, right, and center. But suffice it to say, this is one of those that I feel will stick with me for quite some time. One thing I did mention to Tanhoney on this piece when we talk about this Westhead Media and the agent, the talent agent, getting the kid into the car and driving away, the whole thing made me think of another piece, and it's a piece that we actually covered on SCP Cafe back in week 10. That's SCP-4898, Do You Have What It Takes by Mini-Meats, that involved an anomalous talent agent. I think you could almost look at them together and have an even worse, darker interpretation of this Westhead Media. I know Tanhoney wants to make Westhead Media a thing. Man, you're off to the right track. You can't ask for a much stronger showing for a GOI in the beginning than this. This was phenomenal, really, really dark, but for the wiki, this is near perfection. This was that should probably tell you that this was a +1 from me. So before we get out of here, I have 2 mailbag questions to address, and they are both along the lines of, hey, you've been doing this for a while. What do you think about things? AAS Mallard says, seeing the growth of the podcast has been very exciting. Looking back, what do you think were the biggest challenges, and what do you foresee as being bottlenecks going forward? To be honest, I don't think there were a lot of challenges in the past. I actually feel very grateful with how well everything's gone. I've been really fortunate. The community has really liked what I'm doing, and there's been, tons of good content to talk about. So the challenges are mostly from myself in, keeping the commitment going. I've mentioned in the past that, I am one that will frequently pick up projects and work on them for a while and put them back down. And SCP Cafe, in its now 35 straight weeks of running, represents probably the largest single time commitment I've put into a project, maybe ever. So that for me is really, it feels really good, that it's this moment of personal growth. So that's been a challenge, but it's also been highly rewarding. I feel, get some self-confidence out of this while I'm doing it, and that's always good. Bottlenecks going forward, I feel like I have to kind of think about different ways to get the word out. At some point, it's do you do some advertisement? I actually did try to advertise on the wiki, but, Wikidot in their majesty decline to return my emails. So, I don't know. Sorry, you have to keep seeing the same ads about surveillance camera systems and so on. You could be seeing things about Cafe. I might actually advertise different skips that I think are neat and, link to where I talked about them. But tough shit. I can't make them answer their emails. So yeah, basically just growing the community and all of the growing pains that comes with that. There's points where I think things get to be kind of difficult to moderate, to keep track of the discussions and to just stay in the loop. That's why a lot of the Cafe community, as it were, is basically in one place. It's on the IRC. I don't have comments turned on the website. I do have a link on the Cafe wiki to a forum, but I haven't even set that up yet because I don't have the bandwidth right now to kind of keep that going as well. So it is, with the growth comes additional time requirements, and that's the thing I'm battling with the most out of anything, is just finding the time to do all of the stuff that I want to do. Christian Wright says, also, having been doing this podcast for quite some time now, have you developed any new perspectives regarding the wiki or the works that comprise it? And what are some ideas or ways of thinking about skips or the wiki that you didn't have before? That's a really good question. I don't know necessarily that my perspectives about the wiki or its respective pieces has really changed. I have definitely gained a greater appreciation for a number of authors who I simply hadn't read much, if any, of their works in the past. And I've kind of explained that in the past, that it unfortunately can come with the territory of being staff, that the first thing you give up as far as time is, for a lot of people, actually reading the damn skips that you're, doing the staff work to ultimately enjoy. A lot of people in staff, moderators, and so on just kind of let that go. And that's been probably the biggest plus of running Cafe, is that I see everything that's posted every week. And it gives me a lot of new ways to think about things as far as ideas, and just seeing all the stuff, I think, does stimulate a lot of the creative juices. And if you're ever feeling like everything's been done, this show should be a testament that it feels like we will never run out of new ground. There's always something to explore and something new to discover. So that might be the biggest thing, actually. It has totally broken me of that thought that it's all been done. It has not all been done, and there's a lot more to come. We're closing in on SCP-5000. It's coming. I feel like it's probably coming this calendar year, and we'll have 5,000 down. We've got another 6,000 or so non-SCP articles on the wiki, and we have not remotely come close to running out of things to say. And I'll leave it at that. The Week 34 show, all things going as planned, will be on Friday, August 23rd. If you thought this show was worth $1, patreon.com/scpcafe is the best way to go about that. And you get some neat stuff and some neat additional access as well, like early access to CollabCon Recap Part 2, which will be going out this coming Wednesday, August 21st, to everybody. I will see you on Week 34. Keep reading, keep writing, and I'll see you on the other side.